Een vijand van de staat, zo werd Tomás HALIK genoemd ten tijde van het communistisch regime in Tsjechoslowakije. En hoewel hij in de gaten gehouden werd door de geheime politie, kon hij priester worden in de ondergrondse kerk. Pas na de val van de muur begon hij te doseren en te reizen in het buitenland. Hij werd bevriend met Johannes Paulus II en president Vaclav Havel stelde hem voor als zijn opvolger. Maar in plaats van president te worden van Tsjechië, verkoos Tomás HALIK om academicus te blijven en priester. Wie is deze man die zowel in voor- als tegenspoed zijn eigen weg volgt? Wij konden hem ontmoeten in het Hollands College in Leuven, waar hij op uitnodiging van de faculteit Theologie te gast was.
I was born in the same year when the communists came to power, and I grew up in the secular family, in the secular intellectual family in Prague. My father was historian of literature. He was an agnostic, I was baptized, but I grew up without any religious education. So in our family, the Bible stories were like the Greece myths, the part of the European culture, but nothing so special religious. And my way to my conversion has several steps, it was the first step more intellectual, aesthetic, also political, because Catholic Church was in that time in our country persecuted, very hard persecuted. I think even harder than in other neighbor countries. It was a field for an experiment of the total atheization of the society. The church was absolutely throughout of the public sphere.
And were nuns and priests persecuted? Were they
yes,
killed?
There was in 50s in the Stalinist era there was thousands of priests, nuns, Catholic intellectuals in prison, even some of them executed. In the 60s it was a little bit better, but the church was absolutely in the hand of the state. And each priest has to have a special permission for his priest activity, and this permission could be taken off when the priests were active.
Your own mother didn't even know that you were a priest.
Yes, for me was now possibility to join the official seminary, because the official seminary was in the hands of the secret police practically, and it was not allowed for the people. They got already the university degree to enter the seminary, so for me it was the only possibility, the underground church. So I studied theology in underground, and then I was ordinated in East Germany. East Germany was the situation a little bit better. In the private chapel of the bishop in Erfurt, I just came for a weekend, and I received the ordination. But even my own mother was not allowed to know about it. It was so in secret, so dangerous. So I worked 11 years in underground church. My official profession was a psychotherapist with alcoholics and drug abuser. So it was also the great experience, because I was always in the intellectual milieu, and in the clinic for the alcoholics I met another people, so really poor people.
Afterwards you became an advisor to President Vaclav Havel, And he even suggested that you should be his successor as a president, but you refused. Why?
So I think it's better to stay to keep my work in the church and the university. It will be not quite easy to be a priest and president, also from the canonic law and so on. But in our country there's a tradition that the president should be not only the political figure, but also a sort of moral and spiritual authority and intellectual authority. It is the tradition of President Masaryk, the founder of the Czechoslovak Republic. And Havel was successor of this tradition. So there was this, these ideas.
I read a beautiful chapter that you write about Pope John Paul II in this book, Night of the Confessor. You became friends with him, didn't you?
Yes, I can say so. When many bishops came to Prague to visit the Cardinal Tomás HALIK, the Cardinal Tomás HALIK invited me to show them the beauty of our city. And it was the possibility to speak with these church representatives outside of the sphere of the microphones of the secret police. So I met also the Cardinal Listiger, the Archbishop of Paris. We spent 2 hours just walking in the old city of Prague in the night, and I told him many things about the underground church and about the future of the church, about my dreams, about my plans. And he said, "You must tell this to the Holy Father." And I said, "Oh, it's easy for you. You are Cardinal of Paris. I am the psychotherapist in Prague. I have no passport," and so on. And then he said, "Oh, there will be perhaps a possibility." And there was a possibility in November 89, there was in Rome the canonization of Agnes of Prague. And it was the first time when the regime allowed several thousands of believers to go there. And I was there too. And one day I was just walking in Rome, in Trastevere, and I met Cardinal Listiger. And he said, "Oh, you are here? So please, you perhaps can write a letter to the Holy Father and ask him for a meeting." And I did it. And I received an invitation for a private dinner with the Holy Father, and it was my first meeting with him. It was just a day before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the Pope came from television, from the news, and said with his voice, "This is the end of communism." And I said, "Oh, Your Holiness, excuse me, but I don't think that papal infallibility does work in the political affairs. I think there will be some 5 years of perestroika in our country." No, you should be prepared. It will be very soon. And it was in 2 weeks. Yes. And then I was invited to prepare his first visit to our country. It was his first visit to the post-communist world. So I spent one month sabbatical, practically every day, speaking with him, because John Paul II prepared his visit very, very carefully.
Fall of the wall had a great impact. The end of communism, you could get out of Czechoslovakia, you could teach and travel a lot. But when you look at it now, at the Czech Republic, it has become the most atheistic of all countries. So the communists, they they did get what they wanted, didn't they? They did succeed.
I think it's not so simply that we are the most atheistic country. Under this etiquette of atheism, there is so many different positions. There is also some apatheism. The people, they are apathetic towards religion. They are the agnostics also. They call themselves atheists, but they are absolutely not atheists. Many atheists, many anti-theists, many anti-clerical, anti-Catholics are against their own conception of God and their own image of the church. And so there is also the religious analphabetism that people have a very strong position against the church, but they have practically no informations about this. So I think it was also some mistakes of the church. Democracy needs a special biosphere, a special moral biosphere. We need also some changes in the heads and hearts of the people. Also some changes in the value orientation, and it is something which cannot happen from one day to another. So I think it was the task of the church to help to create a moral atmosphere for democracy.
You have expressed concern about democracy, whether it will succeed, whether we can have this change in the morals and in our hearts and our thinking.
We are in television, and I'm also speaking about the role of media in the political life, because I think the media play the religious role in the society today, because they are the interprets of the word, and they are giving the great symbols, the great stories, and they are influencing the way of thinking and way of life of many people. They are the arbiters of truth and importance. I have seen it in television on my own eyes, so it is true. And it was the first news in the television news. It is important. So it was always the role of religion to interpret the word, to be the arbiter of truth and importance. And now the media are playing their role. I think the real debate about values, about the really important things, that is it is necessary for democracy.
In your books, some themes come back frequently, like the paradox, or the hidden God, or atheism. Now, we can't cover all of them, but let's try to go into depth with some of them, namely the paradox. Why are you so fascinated by the spirituality of paradox?
I'm saying that faith and doubts are like two sisters. They need each other. They need to complement each other, because the faith without critical thinking, without doubts, should lead to fanaticism, to fundamentalism. But also the skepticism without belief, without the fundamental trust, could lead to bitterness, to pragmatism, to cynicism. I said I'm quite skeptic by nature, but especially as a skeptic, I need a hope. I need not an illusion, not an optimism, but hope. In our country, we say the optimist is a person who has lack of informations. and I think the optimism is an illusion that everything will go better and better and better automatically. And I think that the hope is the strength to withstand the situation when the things are going also worse and worse. And so it is something different than the optimism. So I wrote a book about hope, about faith, which is not just a set of dogmatic sentences. I think for me to be a believer, it seems to be a man of dialogue, because the true unbeliever is a man of monology, who leads the monological way, who is just speaking for himself and so on. And I think that a true believer is a man of dialogue, is a person of dialogue, is a person who can listen.
You talk about paradox, the Easter story. That's complete paradox, isn't it?
Of course, it is. For me, it was very inspiring, the meeting with one Japanese Jesuit, and he told me, the Bible is full of koans. Koans. The many sentences of Jesus, they are koans. The first will be the last ones will be the first, and so on and so on. And also the story of Jesus, the Son of God, who is born in the poverty of Bethlehem and who is dying on Golgotha. It is a paradox. The religion of enlightenment was the religion of a harmony. God should be a garant on the harmony in nature and in our life and so on. But our life is not so full of harmonies. It's full of paradoxes, full of problems, full of open questions. And there are also some questions, they are so good that shouldn't be spoiled by answers. I think that God appears also in questions as a question, as a provocation. In our country, in our so-called atheistic country, the faith is provocation. And I like this provocation. Jesus was a great provocator, and we must provocate the people to think.
Mm-hmm. Are these paradoxes, showing that the God is not comprehensible? I mean, we want a God who we can understand, like the Enlightenment shows.
Yes, but it's an idol. It's an idol. The God who is so simple, so easy, unstable. It is an idol. God is a mystery. God is a great mystery. God is not just behind the scene of nature and history and our life. So God is in transcendence, and I think we can meet Him in the experience of love, because love is the great transcendence. Love is not just an emotion. Love is an experience that somebody is for me more important than I am for myself. I can transcend my egoism in love, and God appears in this experience of this transcendental love.
also a confessor. You hear confession a lot. Isn't it strange for a country that is said to be an atheistic country that so many people go to confession? I mean, it's practically non-existent in our countries. Do you really hear that much confession in Prague?
Thousands and thousands.
Thousands and
thousands and thousands. Because I also baptized more than 1,000 young people in these 20 years. In our church, we have every week on Thursday night several hours of meditation, of adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, and there are some priests, and I'm always there to be for disposition for the people, to speak with them. Some of them are coming to the Sacrament of Penance, some of them are coming to the informal confession, or to discuss, to speak, to seek a counsel, to seek a consolation, to bring their problems. And I think it's very important to be the partner for this dialogue, not to be the owners of the truth. The truth is the book which was not read by nobody to the end. And I think it's important to listen. It's important to try to seek with the seekers together.
In your book, Patience with God, you write a sequel to the biblical story of Zacchaeus. Who is Zacchaeus and why did you want to write a sequel to this story?
I was once invited to the Czech Parliament to present a meditation before Christmas for the deputies of our Parliament and senators. And I told them this story about Zacchaeus. And I told them it is a parable about the situation of the church in our country. When we got first time the opportunity to enter the public space, we were looking, there were many people applauding us. There were some people against us, but we didn't mention the Zacchaeuses looking at Jesus from the distance. But Jesus came to him and called him by his name. To call somebody by his name, it means I know you, I accept you as you are. I'm not expecting that you will come to me. I'm going to your nearness. And the church has not done this.
Zacchaeus is looking out from a fig tree when Jesus is coming along, so he doesn't want to go to Jesus directly, but he doesn't want to go away, but he looks at what am I going to do? Is he interesting? Yes, that's true. He's a seeker. So maybe your path has been to accompany these, especially these people.
It's perhaps my mission in the church and the society to speak with those they are on distance, and they need somebody who will accept them, who will not manipulate them, and this is my work, and also my books. They are for those seekers. I think that the main distance is not between the so-called believers and so-called non-believers. The main line is between seekers and dwellers. They are the dwellers. They are the people. They are absolutely at home in the churches or in the traditional atheism.
I remember you in your book when you say I'm not too pessimistic about the churches because about ruined churches, because I myself in Czechoslovakia I saw churches and I looked through the rooftop and it was all in ruins, but it helped me. It was a good thing for me. So.
Yes, I think it is the hope. It is the hope. It is not the optimism, but it is the hope. We must be open to the miracles. God is coming to us as a challenge. God is not so banal. God is for many people, and sometimes also for the believers, the hidden God, the silent God, and I'm saying it is very important to interpret this hiddenness of God, this silence of God. The atheistic interpretation is, so God is silent, it means God is dead, God does not exist. And I think it is too simply, it is too superficial. They are the traditionalists, they are not able to listen this silent music of the hidden God. They are repeating the old formula. They are some enthusiastics with their hallelujah, but they are also not able to understand and to listen to this silence of God. But I think the major phase is the patience with this hidden God. I think hope, faith, and love. They are three arts, three ways how to be patient in face to face this silence, this hiddenness of God.
Thank you very much, Monsignor HALIK, for this interview.